Hello, you are listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira.
Hi, this is Thomas.
And I'm Tammy, and I hate when he comes in first.
I know, but I have to do it every once in a while.
I know, but it's so mean.
It isn't. It's not mean.
It's mean.
It's mean. Why do you have to always be first?
I don't know.
You have to get to the house first.
I'm the control enthusiast.
And you have
my
to.
Job.
Yeah, I know.
All right, what are we talking about?
We're talking about 5 easy steps to a win-win resolution.
How about just 5 easy steps to a win-win?
5 easy steps to a win-win.
To a win-win.
I'm trying to think of a really fancy
win-win is the noun.
Win-win. So that's two Vietnamese people.
No.
There's win and win.
Yeah, no.
Spelled Nguyen.
Maybe it's Win, W-Y-N-N, like Steve Wynn, like the Wynn Hotel in... Is his name Steve? I think it's Steve.
I think so.
The Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas?
Maybe it's Win, W-I-N-N, Win, N-G-U-Y-E-N.
Maybe it's Win, W-H-E-N, Win, W-I-N.
Now you're just being silly.
All right. So, anyway, 5 easy steps to a win-win. Now, one of the things about this topic is, honestly, in divorce, people are so willing sometimes to cut their own nose to spite their face. It's like, I have people who don't want to do something that's going to benefit the other person. And one of the things I say about this is you have to always focus your decisions on, is this giving you what you want? And then if you can give the other person something they want and it doesn't cost you anything, then that increases the trust in your co-parenting.
Which is an intangible.
Right. But that makes for a more peaceful life.
A happy life. Happy co-parent, happy life.
Like that.
So I have to keep my ex-wife happy and my wife happy. Boy, it's a good thing I don't have 2 divorces.
Yeah.
I can't keep all them women happy.
Right.
But when negotiating, especially on parenting topics, you really need to get through to what are the vital issues and then let go of the small stuff. So here is the process to get to your win-win. First of all, you've got to decide what's absolutely essential, because these are your no-goes. These are your what they call your BATNA, or your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And so these are the things you'd go to trial over. So decide what's essential. I remember when I was going through my divorce early on, and to me, a parenting plan where I had significant overnight parenting time was just a non-negotiable for me, because parenting is just so a part of who I am, and I'd be willing to do battle on that question. And I remember one time there was, I think my ex-wife talked to Tammy about the possibility of her moving her family to, was it Florida?
Mm-hmm.
And I basically said, over my dead body. Yeah.
Right.
You know.
And that's, I remember we were standing on the porch having that conversation, and she was married to somebody in the military at the time. And she said, we're looking at all the different places that he would potentially be sent. And one of them is Florida. And Thomas and her have a 50-50 parenting plan. And what I said to her is, I said, well, you have to know that that's something that Thomas would fight tooth and nail over.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say, well, we're not going to agree for you to take the kids, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even, and sometimes
you
that's,
didn't?
No. And sometimes that's what
that's the way you talk to me.
Sometimes that's what people do. They get really reactive before it's even, it wasn't even decided that they were, they weren't, or what was happening. She was just saying, look, this might be one of the possibilities. And I think she was kind of testing the water for what the reaction to that would be.
Yeah.
And so I just said, you got to know this is something that he's gonna definitely fight over. and they ended up not going. I don't know why. I don't know if that comment had anything to do with it, but
Right. So I have here as two, decide, in deciding one, take into consideration how strongly you feel on the subject.
right.
So there are certain things that are non-negotiable.
Right.
And it's just, I'm just not going to do that. There are other things that you feel strongly about, but they're not essential.
Right.
Do you remember what because I haven't read the book, you've read the book, but and what is the definition of things that are essential? I'm going to make her think.
Well, I don't wait for it. Are we waiting for my head to explode, or what are we waiting for? I don't think that there's. It's not like he gives this definitive outline of like, oh, these things are essential and these things are not. It's just figuring out what's essential to you, which comes down to what do you want your life to look like.
Yeah.
And I think that,
what must your life, what are the must-haves?
Right. And Tony Robbins talks about that. What are your musts?
Yeah.
If you want to accomplish something, but you haven't, then it's not a must for you. It's a should. I should do this. Like, for me, one of the things I struggle with is my weight. And so it's like, obviously that hasn't become a must for me. I must lose weight. Right now it's obviously a should. I know I should. I know I need to.
Right.
But I haven't prioritized it to a must.
Right.
To where I'm focusing on it enough to make it happen.
Right.
To give I think weight is a common thing that a lot of people, even if you're not overweight, I think a lot of people want to lose weight or whatever. And so I think that's a relatable example. But I think when he talks in the book, it's not so much about what should be essential or what should be your top priority. It's about taking these concepts and applying them to whatever you want your life to look like. His main core point of the book is just that it's don't dilute your effort.
Right.
That's the main point. Don't dilute your effort and stay focused on. So like in the divorce, you're not going to have every aspect of divorce come out the way you want.
You're not?
No.
Are you sure?
That was very convincing though. No, you're not going to have every single aspect of divorce come out the way you want. So the question is, what's the essential piece? Or what's, usually one, maybe two pieces. And like you said, for you, it was custody. So when it came down to, she wants a little more money, as long as you were getting 50-50, you're like, I don't care, I'll compromise on that.
Right.
Because I can always make more money.
Right.
At least that's how you felt,
Right.
I can always make more money. I can't get more time with my kids.
Yeah,
once
I
it's
can't
gone.
make any more children.
Right.
Not with her, anyway.
Yeah, not with her. But, and you and I are, we really,
I'm 60.
Yeah, you are now. I wasn't too old when we got together, but I definitely am. I'm 50, so I'm a little too old to have a child now. But anyway, so you can always get more money. You can't get that time with your kids back. So that is a non-negotiable, and then recognizing that the kids have to have time with the other parent and all that kind of thing. So, I think that's, for most parents, I think the kids are the non-negotiable part of it.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, it can be that. And it can be, getting half of the, selling and dividing the house, or it can be keeping the marital residence. But, being essential means that you got to have it. So just keep that in mind. I have as number 3, if it's not essential, it's trivial. So if it's not, something that you would just not yield on and that you would spend a lot of money on attorneys to avoid, then it's trivial.
Well, and on number 3 in the chapter 3 in the book, I think this is the one you're talking about. It's titled "The Unimportance of Practically Everything."
Right.
And that is one of the things that happens is in divorce is it's kind of like, do you remember back when you were in high school and it felt like everything that was going on was so massively important?
Yes, I do.
And that like everything that was happening was stuff that was is like your whole life. It was a crisis of your whole life. You know, our son had a friend a few months ago who committed suicide, and it's like how sad to be a young person that has your whole life in front of you and to get to a point where you have so much despair that you would do something like that. But I think that does speak to how much pressure you're under in high school and how much it does feel like that's your whole entire world and everything that's happening is like, oh, this is a crisis. I think the same thing happens again when we go through divorce.
Yeah.
It's like we feel like everything happening is like my whole world's going to fall apart, you know. I'm going to be alone, I'm going to have no kids, I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to be, you know, everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket, so to speak. Right. And it feels like it's your entire life in that moment.
I can't even remember high school.
Right. But point. At that time, but you remember that feeling.
I do.
Of that moment in time feeling like it was your entire life.
Right.
You know, and that's what the divorce crisis is. It feels like it's your entire life, but we are sitting here as living, breathing examples that it is not. It is something that has happened to you during your life, but it is not defining who you are. So you have this clean slate of opportunity to pick up and rebuild, which is totally possible. And honestly, everything that I went through during my divorce, everything that felt upsetting, everything that I was worried about, everything I thought was going to go wrong, none of that really has any impact on where I am now.
Right.
You know, where I am, I mean, it does in that I obviously wouldn't be married to you if I hadn't gotten the divorce. And, you know, from a practical perspective, there's certain things that, yes, would have happened. But because I went through that divorce, that does not mean my entire rest of my life is despair. But it feels like that in the moment.
And I've seen couples fight over $300 in support and just go to trial over it and spousal support factors and the whole thing. And, frankly, that's what we say in negotiation is you have to ask yourself, is this life-changing?
Right.
You know, for me, it wasn't life-changing.
Right.
So I was willing to trade it.
Right.
I have as number 4, always yield on the trivial, but I'm not sure that that's exactly what I mean. Right? I think that you should trade what's essential. When you're negotiating, it's a win-win to trade what's essential to get what's essential in exchange for what's trivial.
Right. And the way he defines that in the book, as far as the trade-offs is which problem do I want?
Yeah.
Because nothing is going to be perfect.
Right.
Right. No option that you choose. You know, if you keep the family home, there are certain, things tied to that because you've now got to figure out how to pay the mortgage and how to maybe refinance and how to get new furniture to replace certain furniture that was taken by the other parent or, all these different things. But then on the upside, you have the kids in the same place. It's a little more stable. You're comfortable there and all that. Or you can move somewhere smaller that's more manageable financially and doesn't create the financial stress. But now it's a whole new place and you've got to kind of deal with the emotional upheaval of that transition. So it's sort of like the financial problem versus the emotional problem of keeping or leaving the family home. And so you got to figure out which problem do I want? Because people a lot of times think that, if I just stay in the family home, that'll solve everything. I won't have to it's kind of a way of like, I won't have to deal with any of the changes.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. It's evaluating which one of these problems do I want to have.
Right. And what if your trivial is their essential? It sometimes happens.
Right.
I think a typical one is, husband wants to keep the retirement plan. That's an essential to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he won't negotiate. And, but they're going to, if you go to court, they're going to split 50-50. So be it. But if that's not an essential to you, then you can create a lot of value by trading that for something that is essential.
Right. And he says, I think you're into part 2, where he says, how can we discern the trivial many from the vital few?
Yeah. So how do you do that?
Right.
Are you on that chapter? Have you read that?
I've read the whole book already.
Oh.
That's why it's difficult when you ask me to go, and I'm on to another book. So, and then you're asking me to go back and recall specific things, and it's just...
So you read the books and then you forget them?
No, I haven't forgotten the core concept. I've just forgotten some of the details of how he explains things.
I see. I see. Okay. Right. Well,
he's got I think there's a workbook that goes with this that I would like to get.
Let's get the workbook.
I didn't know this win-win episode we talked about essentialism a few weeks ago, but we talked about it from a different perspective.
But see, I wrote this a couple days ago.
Right.
So, I guess what I'm getting at is that, it's kind of like there's a saying that never sweat the small stuff. And, rule number 1, never sweat the small stuff. Rule number 2, it's all the small stuff.
Right.
Right. And there's a lot of truth to that. And people get hung up in negotiation and in litigation over non-essentials.
Right.
Yeah. Like, for example, the $300 a month in support.
Right.
And I've heard Tammy say this in mediation numerous times. Look, if the amount's not life-changing,
right,
then why are you,
right,
why are you risking a trial over that issue?
Right. Right. And one of the ways I looked at it in my own case is, I needed a certain amount of money to survive. And I couldn't do with any less than that in order to just keep the lights on, and he didn't want to give me that. And we went to court and they actually ordered more than what I was, he wanted me to take 2,000 at the time. I'm just giving you the numbers so you can understand the argument.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, but because you were there, we were already living in the house together. But it's interesting because people say, well, my friend has only got 1 child and I've got 2, and, she gets 3,000 a month and I only get 200 a month, and there's a lot of different inputs that go into it. It depends on the percentage of parenting time, the earnings of both parties, all of these different things. So there's not like, $500 per child per month. There's no set thing like that. It's a formula. It's 2 + 2 is 4. And if your 2 + 2 is 3 + 3, then it's 6. It just is different for everybody. But I remember having this conversation with him where I said, I got to have 2,400 to keep the lights on. And he said, nope, I can only afford 2,000. And I said, I can't survive on that. And then he went into court and we got a court order that it was like $2,900 a month. So it was like $400, $500 more than what my number was that I threw out. So I was actually kind of shocked at what it came back at. But here's the problem. 6 months later, he quit his job.
Right. Because
he didn't want to pay, and that felt too burdensome for him. And I sort of killed the goose that laid the golden egg, because if I had just said, fine, 2,000's fine.
He probably would have paid that maybe 2-3 months.
Maybe 2 or 3 months. Yeah. I mean, this has been a long ongoing
thing. And you'd
thing.
be ahead $6,000.
I've gone years without money from him. So this has been a huge ongoing thing. And I don't know. My ex-husband's pretty extreme, and he's willing to quit his job and be non-existent in order to avoid paying me. But I don't know if that would have changed the outcome, but I feel like it might have, because he would have then been in control of deciding that amount.
Yeah.
And people tend to comply more with things that they have a say in. And
right. I was only kidding about that.
I know. But then you say, oh, well, but Tammy, you have a $400 gap then. Okay, I do. And you know what? I can get a part-time job on the weekends. I mean, Uber and all that wasn't a thing then, but it certainly is now.
Start a podcast.
You can start a podcast, become a divorce coach. You can do all kinds of things. So, but I understand that if you're in a position where you need $20,000 a month of support in order to survive, and that's the standard of living during the marriage, well, then you can't just go out and get a job tomorrow filling that gap. I get it. But those aren't the people that tend to argue about the support. The people that tend to argue about the support are the people that are getting $200 a month and it should be $250. Well, you can make $50 extra somewhere, or you can let go of some of your bonus cable channels, or you can cancel your Netflix subscription. Whatever it is, there are solutions to those problems.
I remember, what's the name of that the 4-day work week guy? Tim Farrell. That's his name.
Ferriss. Not Farrell.
Okay. Farrell's the ice cream.
Yeah. Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, and he said that part of being successful is you ask yourself, what are you willing to let go of? And he said, well, are you willing to let go of your food, or you can do anything if the goal is big enough.
Right. And I feel like the 4-hour work week is sort of in line with the same thing that the Essentialism is saying, because when he talked about that 4-hour work week, what he essentially says is pare yourself down to the core things that are the things that you have to do in your business and nobody else can do.
Yeah.
What are those things? And then outsource.
And outsource the rest.
Outsource the rest, and that way you're down to just the essential things that are your contribution.
Right. And that's a win-win, because somebody gets a job.
Right.
Somebody
else gets to make money.
Somebody else gets to make money. Right. Right. And that's true, that in deciding what's essential, if you think that your financial well-being is successful, who was the one that said, how many people do you know that you could live on their couch for a week?
That was the... See, I read so much stuff, I'm telling you. There is a guy, I believe he's Japanese. He's either Japanese.
It's not the rich dad, poor dad.
It's not the rich dad, poor dad, but it's like either the Japanese or a Chinese millionaire.
Yeah.
And he said, look, if you're, no, that's not it. I was trying to find it. If you're in a situation to where, like, let's say one of the things you're worried about is you're afraid you're going to go broke, right? You're afraid you're going to lose it all. And I think mostly when he's talking about it in the context of like business clients that he works with and coaches and whatever. And he said, if you're afraid that you're going to lose everything and be destitute, which is, I think, what a lot of us fear going through divorce. Yeah. Think of every person that would let you sleep on their couch for 1 week. Right. And he said most people can come up with anywhere from 6 to 10 people.
Yeah.
So if everything just totally fell apart, you could at least sleep on your friends' couches for 10 weeks while you figure out what you're doing and get yourself together.
Right. So what's essential is the question. And it may be that your family relationships are essential. I mean, I think mine are. There are certain things that I'd be willing to die for. My Christian faith, my wife. There are certain things that even, the ultimate sacrifice is worth it. But, most of the things we argue about in family law are trivial things. We argue about how much support. Well, I won't accept anything less than $2,000. Well, I won't pay anything more than $1,700.
Right.
I mean, to me, you should be able to resolve that case.
Right.
But people say, well, I can't. I'll never do that, and they wind up spending a lot of money on attorney's fees and making their lives miserable over that.
Right.
And I think people also sell themselves short. A lot of them do. In that you can make money in our economy
Right.
if you're creative about it.
Right.
Pretty much anybody can. You don't have to get a job as a greeter at Walmart.
Right.
You can you can start your own business, or
Right.
you can create a membership website. What is it that you know how to do? I mean, everybody has something that they can offer the world that the world would be willing to pay for.
Right. Right. Everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses, and that's a lot of when you talk to when you're going through this kind of thing with divorce, it's like a lot of times all the different pieces of your life are shifting.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out what your contribution is, what you want that to look like. We had a client one time where we did a mediation, and they had owned a business.
Right.
And that business had been so stressful, at least from the wife's perspective, that she was just like, you know what? I don't ever want to own a business again. She just wanted to go work for somebody, draw her paycheck, come home in the evenings, relax, don't have to deal with the responsibility, and not kind of be on 24/7, and maybe that's where you're at, or maybe you want to start a business or do something of that nature. So again, it's not about there being a right or wrong answer in some ways to these things. It's just about really sitting down and focusing and figuring out what you want it to look like.
Right. And I think that part of the secret to getting to win-win is just getting to the intangibles. Because in some ways, the intangibles are the most valuable things of all.
Right.
Am I willing to move across the country and be bereft of my family connection?
Right.
Probably not,
Right.
We talk a lot about leaving California because of the taxes and the cost of living, and but I love the beach.
Yeah, I married a surfer boy, unfortunately.
So
that's why we go back and forth, and we have these trips to Idaho, because my whole family's not my whole family, but my children and grandchildren, all of them are up here, and so that's our compromise. We come up, 3-4 times a year and spend a week or so here with the kids and all that, and then we're back to California for the surfing.
Right.
And that's our win-win.
Right. So, most of the categories, most of the things in life fall under non-essential.
Right.
But there are a few essentials.
Right.
And number 5 is stand pat on the essentials. In other words, it's not just win-win, it's win-win or no deal. You can't ask me to give up something that I'm absolutely unwilling to give up, that I consider essential. And
it would be like asking you to give up the surfing.
Yeah. Well,
give up the surfing so we can move.
I can give up the surfing.
No, you can't.
I would for you. For you, I would.
I don't think you'd be happy, though.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'd be unhappy for you.
Thank you for that.
That's right. See,
I don't think that's a good idea, though.
I mean, I'm here, aren't I?
Yeah, so that's kind of an inside joke. But, yeah, I mean, decide what the non-negotiables are. But within that realm, like if you said to me, okay, surfing's non-negotiable, I'm not willing to give up surfing.
Yeah.
Okay, then what solutions do we have where we could make that work?
Yeah.
Maybe we live half time in both places. Right. Maybe we move to Idaho, but we take surf trips to California X number of times
Maybe
a year.
we move to Idaho and we take the millions that we have made on Divorce University Online, and we build an indoor surf park.
Like that. See? You can find solutions no matter what.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I'm, like I told my ex-wife, or I didn't tell her, actually. I told Tammy, but Tammy knew what I would have said to her, and he had the answer, but I'm not willing to give up my relationship with the boys.
Right.
That's just central to who I am. And
right. And I already knew that. I didn't
it'd be
have
like
to
cutting
ask
my
you.
arm off.
Right. I didn't have to ask you. I already knew that was something that there's no way you were going to agree to that.
Right. And
it's like with the surfing. I already know you're not going to agree to give that up.
But money is really not in the scheme of things all that important to me.
Right.
In the sense that,
as long as we can afford surfboards.
I like to have money. It's good. It enables you to do things. But I don't live for it.
Right.
I don't, there are things that are more important, like my marriage, for example.
Right.
And I'm willing to give on that. To if you want more money, it's fine as long as you don't touch those relationships.
Well, in the words of my grandmother, Virginia Faye Lovely, money can't buy everything, but it'll get you uptown where everything's at.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I want to have money.
Yeah.
But money it's a funny thing. It's almost like an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's represented by these pieces of paper, and you can take the pieces of paper if you want to and throw them in the fire, but you can't really use them for anything.
Yeah.
Except to buy things.
Right.
You can't really use them for anything. So it's kind of and how much it's worth is
varies.
Yes, subject. We're dealing with inflation right now, which
right.
means that money is worth less than it used to be.
Right.
And what makes a dollar bill a dollar bill? The full
right.
faith and credit of the United States. In some ways, it's an illusion.
Right.
And here's what, if you read all these wealth books and these self-help books, I think that one of the big insights is that you can always make more money.
Right.
You just have to, if you're creative and you just look for that area where you can provide something and add value
to the marketplace. Yeah.
Add value to the marketplace. I tell my kids this.
Yeah.
Find something that adds value to the marketplace, and you'll never want for money.
Mm-hmm. Especially if it's something that you're good at, you like, and really fills a need.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things with what we do is there's just a huge need for this. Unfortunately, divorce is so divorce and child custody issues are so common, especially in California, and there's just such a need and so many people struggling with it. Yeah. And, the jobs that we do, I think, complement both of our strengths and, weaknesses with each other and all of that. And so, it's something that, and we've got the experience at this point. So we've become very good at it. And
we're experts.
Yeah, you kind of
Don't try this at home.
Right. So you've kind of got all these things converging. And that's where you have to kind of look at is, and not to say that if you don't have experience, you shouldn't look at it. You can gather the experience. But I think looking at, like with me, with the coaching, I love people and I love interacting with people and I love helping people. And
she loves talking.
And I love talking. And if I wasn't that kind of person, this job might make me miserable. I don't know.
Yes.
But that's not how I feel about it. And so you have to really look at what's going to serve you and your own,
right.
Situation and your own personality and everything.
And I don't want to give value judgments on what's important. Maybe you hate children.
Right. That's a joke, but yeah. Right. Maybe. I couldn't have ever been a school teacher. If you'd have locked me in to be a school teacher all day with a bunch of kids, that'd have been misery for me. Yeah. I always say I don't like kids. I only like my own. I like my kids and my grandkids, but I don't want to deal with anybody else's.
Yeah, we were outside Fry's Electronics one time, and some guy walked up to Tammy and said, would you be willing to spare a few dollars to help kids? And I said, no, she wouldn't do that. She hates kids.
Which Thomas was joking, and the guy was totally confused. And Thomas does this to me a lot in public. He'll make some joke like that, and people around us think he's serious, and they just look at me like, oh my gosh, why are you with
you
such
are a
monster?
horrible person.
Yeah, or they wonder why I'm with you because you're being so rude or whatever, but he's joking, and I know he's joking, but other people don't know. Unless you listen to the podcast, then you probably.
But if you knew Tammy, you'd understand.
That I don't like children.
Well, you don't like children the way you like your grands.
I do. I'm just not a real patient person. I'm just
Yes.
not good. And Thomas is like totally a kid person. He's like, I mean, I'm not like, I don't really hate children or neglect children or anything like that.
No, she doesn't abuse them.
No.
She just doesn't enjoy their company the way I do.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's like we went we went for my my granddaughter's birthday, and we went to this like indoor play thing with all the kids and stuff, and you know, it's got this counter and all the adults are kind of standing there at the counter observing the kids and all that kind of stuff. And some of the adults were over on the play area with the children, especially if their children were younger. But here's my husband over there with his shoes off, in his socked feet, running around with my granddaughters, like playing on all the stuff and doing all the, you know, and that's how it usually is. It's like he's off with the kids doing whatever, and then I'm in the room with the adults.
Yep.
Doing my thing. So, all right. Any words of wisdom to leave us with?
Just, focus on what's essential and let go of what's not essential.
Mm-hmm.
And almost everything is not essential.
Right. Right. And that's how you really make maximum progress in that one area, is by knowing what's essential and being focused on it.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, so thanks for joining us. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to get notified of more videos as they come out. If you're listening to the podcast, please rate and review us and subscribe so that you get notified of new episodes each week. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira. For more information, visit www.divorceuniversityonline.com.